In late 2024, social media exploded with frantic posts about missing Black boys in Toronto, sparking fears of kidnappings and trafficking. As worried parents searched for answers online, the tragic discovery of a 26-year-old Jamaican rugby player, his body, that discovery will deepen concerns.
What's important is to put things in context and get information from whatever source, whatever credible source that you can, in terms of how do you talk to young people, how do you build the relationships where they can come to you when they're in some type of distress.
5 teenage boys from Toronto vanished, later found across small Ontario towns, but their return brought more questions than answers. Racial equity consultant and co-founder of BuyBlacks.com, Camille Dundas, set out to answer those questions in a new series of articles titled When Black Boys Go Missing, and she joins us this morning. Good morning to you.
Hello, Lindsay. Good morning.
So take us back a little bit. There was a lot of fear, a lot of speculation when Black boys started disappearing in late 2024, not that long ago. What was going on?
Well, the fear, we're parents, and these boys were going missing from supposedly nice neighborhoods in the suburbs like Whitby and Ajax, from middle-class two-parent homes. So this was a shock to a lot of people. 5 boys at the same time was a real concern. So I wasn't surprised that there was a lot of misinformation, a lot of wild theories happening in the comments.
And also, you talk about why this didn't receive immediate media coverage. Walk us through that.
Well, Lindsay, look, I worked in traditional media for 10 years. And I know what I experienced in many of the newsrooms I worked in. I know the racial bias that I observed in many of the newsrooms I worked in. But I think that's a question for any news producers or journalists watching today. I want them to sit with that question. Why didn't they care enough to really dig into this story?
Many of these missing boys were later found in remote towns in Northern Ontario. What did you find out about what happened?
Yeah, I'll emphasize here, Lindsay, that every case is different, of course. But yes, the 5 boys that we focused on for this series were all returned home safely. They were found in places like Sarnia, Orillia, Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is a known hotspot for drug trafficking. And what we found, confirmed by family members and police, is that these boys were preyed upon by older men who convinced them that this would be an easy and harmless, quick way to make money. And I really need people to understand that 2 things can be true at the same time. These boys were finding themselves in criminal situations, but they are also victims of human trafficking. One of the boys thought he could do this to help his mom cover some household bills. Another one of the boys thought it would be an easy way to make money for the things that most typical teenage boys want, clothes, shoes, that type of thing. I also heard from one mom whose 14-year-old son was convinced that he could just make $50,000 and then invest it in real estate. These traffickers are using all kinds of things to trick these kids into participating into something really dangerous with the promise of what seems like a lot of money for a kid.
Of course.
The police officer I spoke to said there's actually a lot of similarity between how a teenage girl is lured into sex trafficking and how a teenage boy is lured into drug trafficking.
And were they targeted on social media? How were they approached?
Social media, at the basketball courts, at high school, like through someone who you know from school but is graduated, but they come back around and they take them all out to McDonald's and give them money and that type of thing. Lots of different ways that these boys are manipulated.
For parents who may not realize their child is vulnerable to being targeted, what are some of the warning signs they should look out for, and what can we do to protect them?
If you notice they're no longer participating in extracurricular activities that used to interest them, or they're bringing home clothes, shoes, or jewelry that you didn't buy for them. But I think one of the most important things for Black parents, especially fathers, to pay attention to is, what do you teach your son about masculinity? Do you create an environment in your home where your son can come and cry in your arms, where he can come to you for advice about what he's going through? Or are you telling him not to cry, suck it up, don't let it bother you? And then he feels he has to be a man out of these streets instead of being a child at home. Black parents cannot rely on the school system, the police system. Our kids have to interact with these systems, but we also have to protect them from these very systems. We have to create a village of support around our kids, because no one else is going to do it for us.
Such an important message this morning. Camille, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.